Hey there friends, it's Missy again. Thanks for joining me today. I'm back with another layout. This one is for the Coco Vanilla Studio design team. And I'm so excited to finally be digging into the Bohemian Dream collection. This is the newest collection from Coco Vanilla, and it is truly dreamy, gorgeous, beautiful. And there are a ton of things in it. There's flair, there's vellum shapes, there's a stamp set, the ephemera die cuts. There's even a 6x6 paper pad this time, chipboard, cardstock stickers, chipboard words, and the dreamiest papers and colors you can imagine. That floral paper, this collection has been sitting on my desk for 2 days and I have not been able to cut into it because every paper is so pretty and I'm just like, I don't want to cut into this. I want to hoard it forever and just hang it on my wall. Now you can't really see this here, but I went ahead and did a little bit of pre-cutting on my Silhouette Cameo on some white cardstock here. I'm going to use this as my background and I'm going to start to peel that off here in just a second. My picture is this. It's a color picture of me and my little girl, one of them, Paige, from a few years ago, and I always have to kind of wrangle her in to take selfies and kind of tickle her, and then she starts to smile and I usually can get a couple of cute pictures out of her. So I'm going to scrap that one today. Now, before I peel this off the mat, I know I'm going to do some mixed media work on it, and so I'm going to just dip my finger into some clear gesso and just smudge around. I have hearts cut out here, and this is some pretty thick cardstock, and apparently I did not turn my blade up high enough. I think I need a new blade. This has happened to me recently a couple of times, and so I'm going to have to kind of help it with the assistance of my little craft knife here, but it turns out okay. I just kind of have to push down a little bit harder than I thought to punch these hearts out. And this is a cut file that I got in the Silhouette store. I've had it for a long time, and it's a bunch of wonky shaped hearts all kind of in curved on the edges there, and they kind of tuck into each other, and I just thought it was cool and I hadn't used it yet. And I'm going to situate my picture down on the bottom right where there's not a lot of the hearts. So I'm going to do what I do a lot. I know a lot of people do this technique. It's really fun and pretty easy, and that is use pattern paper to back the open spots of this cut file. And the fun part about this is going through all of your papers, trying to pick and choose which one you want to put where. And this is actually a very good technique to do with a 6x6 paper pad, because most of the time a cut file has smaller areas to back, and luckily the biggest heart there actually fits on one of these 6x6 papers. And you can certainly use 12x12, but if you're like me, it kind of hurts to cut into a 12x12 paper just for a little portion of it like this, especially when the papers are so gorgeous. So 6x6 is a little less painful to cut into because they're not as big, and you feel like you're using a lot of that paper, so there's not a lot of it wasted. But yeah, I sat there and stared at this collection for 2 days, and I thought, just cut into it, just do it. And then something was holding me back, and it's like, no, I just want to stare at it for a little bit longer. And then the whole day went by and I still hadn't cut into it. And so finally the next day, toward the end of the day, I finally got brave and said, you know what, grow up and cut into this paper, because if you don't use it, it's just going to sit there. So I finally did it. And so now it's finally cut into. I don't feel as bad about it. Does this happen to you? Has this ever happened to you where you just really don't want to cut into it because it's just so pretty? And so all I've done here is I went through the 6x6 pad and picked out most of the papers that I want to use. And I want each one to be sort of a different color. I want to incorporate all the colors. As you can see in that floral paper, I think that's my favorite one. It's got all the colors, including like a navy indigo blue. It's so pretty. And so I'm going to incorporate some of the pinks, the yellows, the turquoise, the light blue. There's even a coral color, a hot pink. Just a very pretty color combo. So I've got all that done there, and I think that looks pretty. It's very colorful and it's just different. And I'm going to jazz up the background here. Now I've already added that gesso, and so that's going to help me with my gelatos, because that's what I'm going to use mostly here. And I'm just going to kind of scribble it down and then dip my finger into some water to kind of smudge it. And if you've never used gelatos, they're very easy and fun to use. It's almost like a tube of lipstick, and you just twist the bottom and the top pokes out, and you just scribble it kind of like a crayon. And when you use gesso like this, it smudges really easily. And you don't necessarily need water, but it does kind of help the smudging process go a little bit smoother. But without the gesso, it doesn't smudge or look as smooth as it does with the gesso. And so that's why I like to use the gesso a lot of times, especially with the gelatos. And I've pulled out the matching colors as close to as what I have that matches these papers. And I'm just going to smudge around the edges of these hearts. I've got the purple, I've got the yellow, pink, coral. What else? Yeah, I think that's all the colors. But I'm just going to go around each of the hearts and kind of smudge some color down. And I've got it finished pretty much. I love how that looks. Kind of messy, but still kind of controlled. And that's the beauty of a gelato. You can control the mixed media, or you control how much you put down. Because, you know, when you do something like this with the packaging technique, sometimes, you know, if you spray too much, you've got a bigger area. And if you only want a little bit of a small area, gelatos are good for that. And so now I've pulled out some shimmers, and these are, let's see, No Yoking, which is a bright yellow, and then a Pretty in Pink, which is this pink color. I'm going to splatter. I'm going to do a little bit of the packaging. This is my favorite blue, Jenny B Blue. It's almost empty. I've got to order some more. And I'm just going to keep playing around with the background. I'm going to do a little bit of overlapping onto the hearts, but not too much. I don't want to take away from the beautiful colors of these papers. I think this is what takes me so long with my scrapbooking. I get asked a lot how long it takes me to do a page, and it depends, but I mean, a good portion of a day, but I don't get a layout done in one sitting. I have to scrap in spurts, depending on when my kids are around or when they need me, or when we're doing something. So from start to finish, I mean, I could spend a good 2 days on one page. So I definitely do not scrap this fast. It's sped up and it's edited to save you the time and torture of watching me hem-haw around with ideas. So after that dried, I wanted to do some hand stitching, but I just, for some reason, did not have the patience today. So I went through and machine stitched very carefully, and some of it's crooked. You can kind of see that, but that's okay. I mean, I think hand stitching, or not hand stitching, well, yeah, hand stitching and machine stitching, it's supposed to look homemade. And so if something's crooked or a little bit messy, I think it's okay. And I went around with all the colors of the thread and just kind of mixed and matched and went around as well as I could with my sewing machine around the hearts. And I just like the final look that gives. It makes them a little more crisp and just gives some texture and interest to the page. And now's the hard part. Well, one of the hard parts is coming up with what embellishments to use, because literally every piece is amazing. Yeah, I'm going to use a piece of chipboard. I'm going to use some of these ephemera die cuts. So pretty. I just wanted to use all of it. All of it. But you can't use all of it on one page, but it's very hard because everything looked pretty. So I just kind of had to narrow it down. I didn't want to use too much because I didn't want to cover up a lot of the hearts, since that's pretty much the star of the layout other than the photo. I didn't want to cover up a lot of that background. So what I'm going to do is just tuck in some flowers around the picture and a couple of blue leaves. And then I'm going to use one of these words as my title. I'm just going to go simple. When you've got words that would make great titles, you know, you don't have to spend a lot of time trying to come up with the perfect title, because sometimes the title comes right to me, and sometimes I'll take an hour thinking, what can I name this page? I'm like, just go simple. Lovely. You know, I mean, it's not a photo that's a big event. It was just a fun selfie. And so lovely will work fine for this, I think. Before I glue anything down, I'm going to come in with some thread. I've got some hot pink over on the left. I'm going to add some yellow over to the right. And I'm just trying to space the color out. So I've got pink going on everywhere. I've got a little bit of yellow going on everywhere. And I think it turns out really pretty. Now I am going to jazz up the chipboard word here in a minute, and I think that it's perfect that they're white because you can use them as is, or you could paint them or mist them. I'm going to use the gelato on it, and it works great. So it takes color really well, and you can customize it to any color you want. And I did want to add some foam behind my picture to raise it up just a little bit, since I've got that chipboard piece over to the right and I wanted it to be even. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, give it a little bit of dimension. And then I'm going to work on the title here. I kind of overlap and then stick the first L underneath that leaf just to kind of contribute to the dimension. And this is easy to do. I just use the gelato like I did on the background. Just scribble a little bit on the word and then smudge it up with my finger. And so it kind of creates this really fun ombre look. And that took mere seconds. It really was easy to do. Now I decided to add a little cluster up at the top, and those are all pieces from the ephemera die cuts. And I kind of just glued them all together so it would move as one piece. And the little blue circle, it says something about happy. I'm so happy, we're so happy, something happy. And it was the perfect color to mix and match with all the colors of those flowers around it. And I'm going to raise it up with some foam and then add some purple thread under it. And that's all I'm going to do to the background, because like I said, I didn't want to cover up any of the hearts. I didn't want to cover up any of that floral paper. It's just too pretty. And that's some blue thread there on the bottom. It's pretty much done. The last thing I'm going to do is add in some lines just for a little bit of journaling about the picture. This layout, or not this layout, this collection is very mesmerizing to me. I just kept staring at it. I know I've said that before, but I really did. It's like, it's just so pretty. Where do you start? That's the biggest problem with this collection, is where do you start? Everything is so pretty. These are some of the accessory stickers. There's always some phrases and some words on that sheet, and so I'm just adding in a couple of those here and there. And I believe that's it. There's the final layout. You guys, you've got to get this collection. It's so pretty. It is so pretty. Everything that you make will be gorgeous because it's pretty. It's so beautiful. And I had a great time making this. It was a lot of fun. Once I figured out where to start, and once I decided to finally cut into it. So I hope you guys will check this collection out. You will not be disappointed. There are so many pretty things in it. But let me know if you have any questions about any of the products or the techniques or anything at all. I will be more than happy to answer. Let me know, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Have a great week.